Kind of get started here, I wanted to take a minute and welcome Representative McDonald to committee. Welcome to committee. And also I wanted to kind of bring your attention to yesterday, everybody got emails of the minutes from a couple weeks ago. So if you would get a chance to go through those minutes, make sure it's okay with you, and then we'll vote on those and clear those up tomorrow when we meet. So first off, is there any requests for bill introductions? Representative Birdcamp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for being number one. I have RS 2824 on behalf of the Kansas Society of CPAs, and this is just introducing a new path to sitting for the CPA exam. Thank you.
And without objection, we'll accept that. Representative Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee. Great to be back in front of you. Kind of miss this committee a little bit, but it's great to see all these faces. I have a bill introduction. It's RS 2885. It's dealing with the adoption of certain rules and regulations related to fees, registrations, and other charges by the department. And at some point in time, what this involves it involves raising the camping fees at the lake, at our parks. And the amounts and all that will follow with this bill, but this is the introduction of that bill.
Body, any questions? Representative?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question, which department?
Wildlife and Parks.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. And it's actually, I'm supposed to say this, I forgot. It's on behalf of the commission, the Wildlife and Parks Commission.
Representative Corbett?
I think it's a good thought process, because we're trying to compete with private industry out there, and this will kind of level the playing field a little bit, I think. And
it does, and it puts our annual permits and that kind of stuff within the distance. I have one in El Dorado, like you know, that competes with the park. So this should get our park fees up, and we need the money. I'm sorry, I'm just introducing a bill. I didn't want no stump speeches right now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely. Without objection, bill's accepted. Any other requests for bill introductions? Seeing none, we'll move on. First item of business today is going to be having a hearing on HB 2423, and Mike will bring us up to speed on that. Thank you, Mike.
Mike Heim with the Revisor of Statutes Office. What this bill does is it allows the use of drones to find a wounded deer. The bill title is the Kansas Wounded Deer Recovery Act, and there's a definition of drone, and it provides that a hunter may use drones to locate and recover wounded or recently deceased deer if the hunter is a licensed Federal Aviation Administration drone operator under a federal rule and regulation, possesses the appropriate hunting license, strikes the deer with basically an illegal method, and any hunter using this drone has to obtain the permission of the public or private landowner before launching the drone. If you have questions, I'll try and answer them.
Committee, any questions? Representative Birdcamp.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Is there any time limit on how long they have, or they just need to get permission and that's it from the landowner?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Is there any time limit? You know, they have like a day, or is it just you get permission and that's
I don't see a time limit.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Wilcott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a law or rule around the property rights above the soil property for the landowners? You say they have to ask for the landowner's permission. Do landowners own the airspace above? Is that in statute in Kansas? I don't know.
Generally, they own the airspace to a certain extent. It doesn't go up as far as it used to, but anyway. Common law was they owned the airspace up to the heavens, but that's not the way it works anymore.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Representative Corbett?
You might check, but I think they've already got this going in Missouri just like this. And it's just like when someone wounds a deer, a lot of times there's phone numbers you can call where guys will bring out a tracking dog or something like that. And there's a fee for him to do that. And I'm sure on this operation, there would be you would think a time limit and a fee, because they're not going to go out there for nothing, I wouldn't think. But I'd like to see what Missouri has, but I think they've got it already.
Body, any more questions for Mike? Not seeing any. We'll move on to oral proponent testimony. First up, Representative Sorsenfeger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The idea for this bill was brought to me from a friend of mine who has a license to operate a drone and felt it, his name is Zach Wilson. He did put out proponent testimony. And in an effort and knowing that other states around us use this technology, and I, as a volunteer firefighter, recently in our department, and this has to do with the bill, we have equipment that is a thermal camera, and it's amazing what the thermal camera does, and you can have these on a drone to locate a recently wounded deer that sometimes occurs when you're hunting, and the deer will wander off and you have to try to track the deer through tracking methods and through the use, and this bill would address only the use of a drone for recovery of a deer. And we're not hunting deer with drones, no. We're just looking to locate a wounded or a recently deceased deer so that we don't waste a deer, because we have enough coyotes and maybe Colorado wolves coming to clean up anything that we might accidentally lose. And that's always sad when you lose an animal. You want to recover the animal that might be wounded so that you can complete a successful hunt and make use of what the good Lord gave us. So this is a way to do that, to successfully complete a hunt and be able to locate a deer if you, the way the current wording is in the bill, if you are a hunter and you are a licensed drone applicator, or not applicator, operator, that you could utilize this technology with a thermal camera mounted with the drone to find the deer so much easier. And it only deals with recovery. We're not hunting with drones. So we maintain there's no change in hunting laws. This is just recovery of a deer. What I gave to you in paper form is a potential amendment to make the bill better, that if you look at the words highlighted in yellow, use of the services of or, that has to do with enabling if you are a hunter and you have a friend that operates a drone that is licensed, you don't necessarily have to be a hunter and be the licensed drone applicator or operator. You can have the services of someone that is a licensed drone operator to help you. So it enables that in short form that I should have had done first, but there it was. So I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Body, he handed out that amendment that he'll be proposing if we go to work this bill. He's just kind of giving you a heads up that he is planning on an amendment. So if we work the bill, that's an amendment he's going to be, would be offering. But I have a quick question on there. Is there a way for Department of Wildlife to determine whether or not a person's engaged in recovering or scouting? Is there some way to define the difference, or is there an activity there that would make that clear?
That maybe could be in the form of an amendment. But no, there's not really, unless they're checked.
I mean, it's clearly legal to scout with it anyway, as it is now, but I mean, is there a way for an officer at the moment that he runs across somebody to determine whether or not they're in recovery mode or scouting mode? That was my question.
That's a good question. And currently, no, that's
Okay.
lacking.
Okay.
That's lacking, so it could be strengthened.
Well, I was trying to think of what could happen. I mean, how could we define the
Right.
difference between the two? And I was coming up blank,
Right.
but I didn't know if you had an answer to that or not.
Perhaps through a fee basis, and through notification immediately to the Wildlife and Parks Department, that might be something that would be workable. But sorry, I did not address that.
Quite all right. Bodies, questions? Representative Schmoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering, is there anything that would prevent us from having this be not during hunting hours? Because as a hunter, if I'm sitting in my stand and someone else possibly around me, especially on public land, if someone else puts a drone up and starts flying around, and I know it says not to harass deer, and deer are, well, let's be honest, they'll run right into your car. They're not the smartest, so it's one of those things. But on the off chance that something happens and they lose control of the drone and it falls down and it makes deer that I'm hunting run off, that's going to be a problem for me. I'm trying to fill my freezer. So is there anything that would prevent us from putting in such language that they could only do it outside of hunting hours? That would put it in the dark, but if we've got heat seeking.
With thermal camera use,
Yep.
that would be a viable option as well. It's whatever the committee's wishes are.
Yeah.
So that is a good question.
Thank you.
Representative Corbett.
Thank you, Chairman. One thought might be, it would be to eliminate public hunting areas and just keep it for your drone on private property.
That would streamline it,
That would save a little bit of that.
yes.
But it would be no different if you called up the number for a guy to bring out 5 or 6 trail hounds to find your deer.
Correct.
I have a neighbor that's a poor shot, so I get to see him quite often. But I think the drone thing's a good idea, and I think there's a person in Overbrook that's kind of been doing this for several years just to help you recover and get out of there. But you couldn't stop it during season or hunting, I don't think. But what I would do if I was the hunter is I'd make sure I had written permission from the landowner to bring that drone on site before just in case, so it just all flows smooth that day for you.
Thank you.
I've known a hunter or two that likes to shoot down them drones if they're not aware of them, so yeah. Representative Poskins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you tell me if this bill is limited to deer that are wounded and deceased through hunting activities, or would it include maybe a deer who has passed from chronic wasting or other natural causes?
I believe the bill only speaks to use through recovery from hunting.
Representative McDonald?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When I've been deer hunting before and we've had this situation, we always use dogs. And so to Representative Schmoy's concern about noise and disruption, I kind of agree with Representative Corbett that a drone would be much quieter and less disruptive than a pack of dogs trying to help you. More effective, probably.
Yes, thank you for that comment. I do agree with that fully. That drones are kind of innocuous that they're quiet, they're up high, they're not affecting anything compared to dogs running, and dogs will go off wherever dogs go and disturb everything that's out there. Where other states are using this technology for this sole purpose as well. I think we can do it here in Kansas as well and be better off.
Body, any more questions? Representative Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative. Is there a requirement for the federally licensed drone operators to maintain line of sight of their drone? Is that still a requirement?
I cannot speak to the requirement that I do not know of. I have witnessed the use of a drone by a licensed drone operator, and he always did try to maintain line of sight, given that the drones are rather expensive, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. They're not just the cheap drone that they're operating. So they want to maintain their equipment and watch out for trees. They have sensing capability on the bigger drones to be aware of obstacles. And he did always want to maintain sight so that he could take care of his invested dollars that he has in his drone.
Thank you. I was just kind of curious. I had studied some of these issues over the years and the regulatory atmosphere that govern our drones. My last question was, is the definition for drones, was that taken out of a different state statute? Because there used to
mirror some of what the Missouri bill was.
Okay. I just would want to make sure it's consistent with how we classify it in Kansas and other aspects, whether it's KDOT or other agencies that may have some regulatory language regarding these vehicles. For a while, it was a big no-no to say the word drone, and you're supposed to say unmanned aerial vehicles, and it's changed to something else. And I was just kind of curious if we've settled as a state on what language we want to use. So that can be a question for another time.
I could look into that.
Okay.
Representative Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as a non-hunter, my question becomes, what's the big deal about hunting with a drone? Why do we have to specifically say this isn't allowed in the bill? Is hunting with a drone just a understood no-no, or what's the deal?
It is currently within Kansas statute, within Kansas law, that it is illegal to use a drone for hunting purposes, because it gives an unfair advantage to the person that is actually would be doing this illegal activity. So it is not allowed in Kansas to operate a drone and benefit in any kind of way as an advantage when you hunt.
Well, a potential problem I see with this bill is you could maybe start out looking to recover a wounded animal, whatever, and then you might come across a deer and then all of a sudden, switch. I don't know how you're going to police what the intent of the drone operator is.
I'm sorry, Representative, go ahead and finish.
I accept that.
Representative Howell?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to throw out that there is some precedent for law that we have passed that would be good to perhaps look at in the future if we choose to work this bill. House Bill 2491. I do not remember what year this was passed. I think it was maybe 2013 or so. That was regarding prohibiting Kansas Wildlife and Parks and Tourism from making any rule regulation regarding preventing an individual from carrying a handgun while lawfully hunting or fishing or for harvesting. So you're not legally allowed to hunt with a handgun, for example, but you could carry a handgun for self-protection. And if I remember the law particularly, I believe you were also allowed to, shoot the deer if it was already, if it was wounded after you tracked it down, if I remember correctly. But I'm a little rusty on the law. It's been a while, and I actually don't personally hunt. I do help, slaughter it after it's brought back, but I don't actually hunt it. So anyway, I'm going off my memory, but that might be good to reference.
Mr. Chairman, to address the safeguard issue that Representative Sanders brought, I did receive a letter of testimony according to the Kansas Bow Hunters Association, which made mention with a member sitting behind me today, Michael, to safeguard Mr. Clark's concern that they suggested a 48-hour no hunting by that particular beneficiary of the drone operation in the same area following the drone use, so that there's not a side effect of an unfair advantage seen if they continued to hunt and happen to see a bigger deer that is around. So that would be another potential amendment if this was ran.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. They're actually looking for a wounded deer they might have wounded and come across another bigger buck and, oops, I think I've seen that buck limping. Uh-oh, wait a minute, let me take another look.
That would be a viable potential addition to the bill to strengthen it.
Representative Mosley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not a hunter, and I believe that you probably have done your due diligence to really kind of think about this. I know that there are some hypotheticals that have been thrown at you regarding this bill, but there's a couple of states that have been able to present this legislation and pass it. Is there any state that you're motivated by, or like you're using it as potential like a North Star to make sure that we are going to be able to use drones in the state, but also make sure that we're not hunting animals and we're being safe and being fair?
I could look a little more into the Missouri law. I do have heard that Missouri has law regarding this and allows for recovery only.
I believe also Tennessee also has a law that you should look into that's very similar to this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Representative, not seeing any more questions. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Representative Will Carpenter. Will, I have you in here as an oral proponent on the sheet, but I wasn't for sure, but I'll let you state your stance.
Yeah, very good. Representative Will Carpenter, District 75, Butler County. Thanks, committee, for having me today. Like I said earlier, it's great to see some familiar faces and be back in this room here. I stand in opposition to this. I'm old. I drag myself into the 21st century with this technology and stuff like that. But mainly, I want to talk about the potential abuse of this, where people do, and it's been mentioned by many of the committee members, where people are pursuing a wounded animal, and how do you know if that's wounded? An animal jumps up, is it going to be the animal that was wounded? Is it going to be another animal? And then in a perfect world, this drone would work perfectly to do exactly what you're talking about. Unfortunately, we have criminals out there that will take advantage of this situation. That's why we have laws against aerial hunting and things like that, because people mean well, maybe. Some of them just are flat criminals, flat out criminals. But I worry about the abuse by those folks out there that use this for hunting purposes, not for retrieving wounded animals, but for actual hunting situations. And we don't have that many game wardens out there. I think we have 60, 62 in our state. It's impossible to patrol the whole state. So I would urge caution on this. The other thing that I might just add, I don't want to drone on and on, but didn't anybody get that? Drone on and on. Boy, it's a 9 o'clock meeting. You guys need some more coffee. Okay, but I do want to talk about in nature, we do in fact lose animals, and that's just part of hunting. But don't think for a minute that they don't, especially in the summer, in the wintertime, where we've got every coon, possum, coyote. I mean, I've seen deer carcasses, entire deer carcasses disappear in 2 days. All that's left is a bone. So although I do think it's terrible to lose an animal, and I've lost my share, I've been bow hunting since 1980, I've lost my share, it's terrible. But to think that they're going to not getting eaten by something is, you know, a misnomer, because like I said, my gut piles are gone overnight. So there's stuff out there that eats these animals, and that's a natural process. So with that, I would urge caution on this. It intersects a lot of areas, and we haven't even talked about access to the property, which now if it crosses the property you have permission on, you have to go and make every reasonable effort to contact that landowner before you start on over the fence to go retrieve your animal. That's just a rule that we live by as hunters. And so I think that there's just a lot of avenues for abuse for unrespecting and illegal folks. So I'll stop there. I'll stand for questions.
Representative Corbett.
Representative, whether this bill passes or not, there will be people figuring this out on their own. If you're a hunter and you have a drone and you want if you want a thermal on it yourself, it's going to happen. But we try to pass laws up here that you think everybody is foolproof. I mean, you can't stop poachers, you can't stop the bad guys, and regardless if you're a bill or not, with the way technology is going, something's going to happen either way. But
and I don't disagree with that, but I just think it just gives them another avenue to abuse the system, so to speak. I'm not saying that there aren't criminals out there. We can pass as many laws as you want, but it just gives them another way to break the law, and an easier way too, with this drone flying with a thermal camera on it. It's a lot easier, you know that.
You're right.
Thank you.
Representative Mosley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much for your testimony. I think that has been like pretty consistent in this body that we don't make laws based off of like the worst people in society. If we were to do that, we probably would have passed gun control in this body a while ago. So I don't think there's anything in this bill that will require you as someone who prefers to hunt as an old school hunter and not use technology. It doesn't mandate that in this bill. And then also my question to you is, well, first of all, it doesn't mandate anything in this bill. It doesn't mandate that you have to do it. But is there any other instance that you would argue that because of the dregs of society that we shouldn't pass something, especially when you have to consider that a drone with a thermal signature on it would cost roughly $30,000. And so I don't know, there's too many, old school poachers who are super passionate about poaching deer that are also going to purchase a $40,000 drone.
Well, I think that is a great example of the $40,000 drone, but there are also drones out there that cost a lot less that have thermal cameras on them also. No, it doesn't make anybody do anything. We all, and I've been instrumental, I like to think, of allowing folks to hunt at their own ability. I mean, so I happen to use a bow, but I have friends that are primitive weapons. I have people that are black powder hunters, pistol hunters, you name it. I've been on record for many, many years about opportunities versus that. But this is a little bit different than that as far as opportunity of hunting and using the weapon of your choice. So this is just a tad different than that. And it's new technology. And admittedly, I drag myself into the 21st century, like I said earlier. This technology just scares the hell out of me.
Not seeing any more questions. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
So we kind of went out of order right there a little bit because of a little snafu here, but we do have some written proponent testimony as well in your packets. And coming up neutral, we have Jake George. Welcome to committee, Jake. Director Jake George.
Thank you, Chairman Kessler and committee members. My name is Jake George. I'm the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks Wildlife Division Director. We did submit neutral written testimony on this, but I wanted to take a few moments of your time just to identify some of the primary concerns that the department has had with the bill. Several of those have already been addressed. The primary one that we have a concern with is enforceability. Right now, it is illegal to operate drones in any form or fashion while you're hunting, which makes it pretty easily identifiable for a conservation officer to say that person's doing something that they shouldn't be. What this bill would do is make it difficult because then it offers an avenue for them to say, no, I'm not pursuing game at this point. I am tracking something that was wounded. And there's no way to ascertain between one activity or the other for those law enforcement officers. Now, I realize that that's difficult because that's bad actors that are doing things that they shouldn't be. Right now, we can identify those bad actors. If this changed and there was specific recovery, which we don't condone the use of the aerial drones in recovery or any sort of aerial vehicles in the practice of hunting, which we consider recovery a portion of the act of hunting. Aside from that, it does get back to wildlife ethics and fair chase with considering the recovery of a wounded animal, be that mortally wounded or not. It is still a part of the hunt, and you still need to consider fair chase when going to track or recover that animal. Other things that we noted with the bill as written were issues with trespass, privacy, and property rights. Right now, you have to get permission from the point of takeoff and the point of landing, but there's nothing to say what could be surveyed while that drone was airborne with that thermal imagery, as well as the potential for wildlife and livestock harassment. We have used drones for some of our survey work. We've used drones with thermal imagery, and I can tell you that deer, while they may run into vehicles, they are bothered by the drones in the air. They will look up and eventually they will move along. So, and while they are fairly quiet compared to a pack of hounds, drones do make a noise. I had one fly over my house while I was working on my deck a couple of weekends ago, and they make a very annoying sound. But so privacy, private property rights, as well as the harassment issue. So the way that the language currently is, if someone were pursuing even a wounded deer, say it wasn't mortally wounded, and that deer gets spooked, is it then harassed? And could they then take that deer if they were to get to it? So there are several concerns with the way that the bill is currently written. And with that, I would be happy to stand for any questions.
Representative McNorton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question in my own mind here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm pheasant hunting on my property and I shoot a pheasant that lands on a neighbor's property, I have the right to retrieve that without permission? And if that's true, would that be the same thing for a drone, that you have permission on this property, you see that the deer went across the fence line, would that drone have the same rights to go over to pursue, to continue pursuing?
Yeah, that's a good question. As Representative Carpenter alluded, we do, as hunters, always try to get that permission before going onto a property, but in pursuit of a wounded animal, yes, you could. I don't know how that would apply with respect to drones. So.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Mosley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. I did not look at your name, sorry. My question for you is, if a bill like this were to pass, is there a possibility to limit the amount of individuals who could be drone operators? Like, for instance, you have to get a license to hunt, I believe. Would it be like, could it be a secondary license so we can actually control the amount of people who are operating drones within the state, so that it's not just like a free-for-all?
Potentially, I would see that as a potential amendment.
Thank you.
Representative Birdcamp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. Have you guys detained anybody for using a drone illegally for hunting purposes in the last couple of years?
That one I can't answer. I could ask our law enforcement folks and get back to you on it. I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Smoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would it help move you and the department to a proponent if we did run an amendment to this to make it to where the drones could be used in non-hunting hours?
I think that you could still, especially with thermals, be scouting, even if it were outside of non-hunting hours. It may help not to disturb someone else who was legally hunting. I will say that this already would be prohibited and is prohibited on public lands for the use of drones. So the way the bill is currently written, you wouldn't be able to use them on the public lands because you would have to get permission, which would not be given because it's already against the law. So.
Okay.
Representative Schwarzenegger.
To continue with the same question from Representative Smoy, would you be turned to be a proponent if through use of a drone and after hunting hours, there be an amendment made that includes a fee for use of a drone to be designated to wildlife and parks? Would that sway you to be a proponent?
Yeah, I can't speak to whether it would sway us to a proponent or not. We'd obviously have to read the language and review it prior to any of those decisions being made, but we would certainly be willing to do so.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, to answer Representative McNorton's question as to the writing within this bill allowing permission to search for a deer across property lines within speaking to this bill, this only is allowed on land that permission has been granted in advance. And so, according to this bill, it is only on the landowner's property that you have asked permission to search. So if you expand your search beyond where you think your deer might be, you have to ask first, according to this bill. Which may be different than actual searching for a deer without a drone. And when that takes place, you can cross and when you're looking for a wounded deer.
Not seeing any more questions. Director, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
I'd also like to point out the Secretary has written testimony in there as well. So you want to learn a little bit more, specific objections and things that can kind of happen. I mean, he outlines a lot of different things in his testimony there to kind of go through. So if you haven't read that yet, I highly suggest you read that. So was there anybody else that was on the list to speak out in the audience? Just to make sure. Go ahead and state your name, and sorry we're kind of all out of order here, but go and state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I prepared a written statement that I believe might have been presented to you. I represent the Professional Bowhunter Society. We're a national and international organization. We're closely tied to the KBA. In fact, in 1973, the KBA adopted our code of conduct as their bowhunter code of conduct. And so we're closely tied to the KBA, but we're a national organization. Many of you have brought up some of the concerns with hunting ethics, the Pandora's box, if you will. We're concerned with hunting ethics. Our members are concerned with hunting ethics. We're also concerned with being a good neighbor. And we've talked about that technology. I wrote this statement as a kind of as an area, defining some of the areas of concern that we had with the bill that we would like to be improved upon. And in talking to our members, I've talked to a lot of our members since, it remains a pretty contentious issue, but the majority of our members are not approving of this bill as it is. And so I've changed my my opinion from neutral to opposing as it is. Some of you have mentioned licensing and patrol of drone use and how that could be available to game wardens and wildlife officers. How do we understand if a hunter is doing illegal surveillance and hunting with a drone, or are they trying to recover a deceased or wounded animal? We have check-in opportunities already on the Kansas Department website and app, where I can check into a public hunting area and check out. I can check in and harvest my deer, send an image that provides tracking, timestamps, geocaking. This could be done at pretty low cost to have a drone check-in system through the department if desired. That's a big ask on this statement that I made. The other big request is a post-pursuit legislation. So a time frame post-drone surveillance for tracking deceased or wounded deer, where the hunter and the drone operator would not be able to participate in hunting opportunity. We recommend 48 hours. Originally, we decided 72, 24 might be sufficient, but just a time frame where game officers can properly define what is a tracking scenario and what is a hunting scenario, and also to prevent gray areas so that we don't create an opportunity for crime. And Representative Mosley, you made a very good point. The reason I wrote this is because we don't want to penalize law-abiding, ethical hunters who want to use technology because there may be bad actors, but there will be bad actors. And so we see some very important points that we made here on this paper, and I can email it to any of you that don't have it. The final recommendation that we would have is the public dissemination of drone footage. Most of these drones are going to have thermal imaging and they're going to have recording ability, especially the more expensive ones. That presents a serious concern for your neighbors. You know, if you think about it, one of the properties I hunt that I harvested a deer on, I bow hunt. One of the neighbors built a nice little homestead, kind of centers the property. I hunt kind of around them, you know, plenty of space. But, you know, I fly a thermal drone on that property with landowner permission, and I'm looking at thermal images of them in their living room. So there's a concern there. The other concern we have is the long-term public opinion of hunting. We know not everybody loves hunting, and we respect those who do not hunt or even are opposed to hunting, but we love hunting. And we want the public opinion of hunting to not be diminished because of random footage of the more extreme and unfortunate situations that can happen in the case of, as you mentioned, a poor shot.
Representative Corbett.
Thank you. I think this bill is probably accomplishes what you want. It is ethical. Because you hear stories all the time where a bow hunter or a bunch of guys will say, well, I stuck 3 deer, I stuck 3 deer and finally found the 4th one. Well, there's 3 deer lost for the one they found. And every law we pass up here, there's always a door for bad people to do bad things. But sometimes I think if you could get the deer recovered that the person shot, it would end the situation immediately. He'd be tagged out, or she'd be tagged out and be out of there. But I would like you to give a little consideration to what it would take to get this passed, because it's when you turn dogs loose to track a deer, it's harder to keep them on your property than a drone. So just food for thought.
We believe in bow hunting ethics. So we believe in making an ethical shot. And that's a big part of hunting. And accidents can happen, but one of the costs to being a poor shot or taking unethical shots is no recovery. We would potentially support this bill if some of these recommendations were taken, the chief of which would be public dissemination or recording of drone footage. Secondary would be a post-flight pursuit, being not able to hunt for a period of 48 hours or so. And then the third main point would be licensing and check-in for proper enforcement.
Thank you, Chairman.
Not seeing any more questions, I would ask if you would make sure you get with Cheryl and submit your testimony. We don't have your testimony on record here, so if you would get with her to make sure she can get that testimony out to everybody. Thank you, body. That was all we have. So we're going to close this hearing up, and we're going to move on to a second hearing that we have. HB 2502, and Mike will tell us a little bit about that. Everybody will recognize this. This is a bill we passed out last year. I think it was unanimous out of this committee, and almost unanimous. I think it was unanimous on the floor as well, I think, or pretty close. So, but we're going to have a quick refresher on it here.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is a bill that passed out of this committee. There were some amendments put on it, and it ended up being vetoed by the governor. The bill was House Bill 2028, and one of the things that the governor objected to was it limited the number of days that out-of-state residents could hunt ducks and other waterfowl. But anyway, what this bill does is it amends a couple of statutes. There's a Section 1 provides, deals with hunting, fishing license combinations and so on. And it had current law had an expiration of June 20th, 2020, and this bill deletes that provision, and it also provides that from and after January 1st of this year, that this discounted license could be available. And the second thing that this does is it deals with lifetime hunting combination, fishing and hunting for any child who's a resident, and it provides that if your current law is 5 or younger, it's $300, and this would provide 6 through 15 would be $400. If you've got questions, I'll try and answer them.
Mike, if I'm not mistaken, I went back to look at the old 2028. Is this the pretty much the exact bill that we ended up with at our final copy before the
Yes.
Senate muddied it all up?
Right, except you don't have the stuff that the governor didn't like.
Correct, absolutely. Body, any questions? Not seeing any. Thank you, Mike. First up on proponents, we have Representative Corbett.
Good morning, everybody. And as the chairman said, this is the same bill that passed both chambers last year. It accomplishes 3 things that they like. They call it the 3 R's. It recruits the youth, retains the seniors, and reactivates Kansas to get outdoors and put those computers down. It's already proven to be pretty good on the youth side of it. A lot of licenses have been sold, and the way it kind of works is the seniors or their parents buy the licenses for the kids and kind of mentors them through their fishing and hunting activities. So I'll stand for any questions if you have any.
Body, do we have any questions? Representative Bergkamp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to make things cleaner, instead of just age 65, would you be open to making it like the IRS full retirement age, which I think is now 67, just so as that changes, it would go along with it?
No.
So right now in the bill, it's like age 65 or plus, but would it be easier if that age would adjust as like a retirement age changes according to the IRS? So right now it's like age 67.
You mean on the senior license?
Yeah.
Well, the senior license, first of all, that used to be there was never a senior license. That was put in the 90s, but 65 is kind of the start where they do that. And I think you need to keep this door open because it doesn't take much for the seniors to just say, hell with it. You know what I'm saying? But I think it keeps them going, gets them out there, and probably it gives them a good reason to be good grandpas and grandmas and get everybody into the game.
Not seeing any more questions. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Chairman.
Next up, we have Chair Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, back again in support of this bill. Just to give you a little history. It used to be free after 65 for a number of years in Kansas, and I think it was in the mid-2000s that the feds caught up with us and said that you have to charge a minimum of what it costs to produce that license. So, and at that time it was $4 and some cents. So Hence, to count that, you know, we have the 2 wildlife funds that when you purchase guns or whatever, anything to do with that, the Pittman-Robertson Act and the Dingell-Johnson Act is for fishing. And so in order to collect federal monies and to strictly divide and send out to the state by the number of licenses you sell, so we weren't getting to count our seniors that were over 65 because we were not charging them the minimum $4 and some cents or anything like that. So hence, which it was very unpopular at the time, but to get that money to come into our state, we started charging the seniors. And so how we did that was from 65 to 75, it's basically that non-resident senior license is 10 years, a 10-year license. After 75, you don't have to have a license. But it's for 10 years, and for what that happened is, that's why it's $45 for a combo license to capture all the federal money that we would get in from those combo licenses. So that's kind of the history of that. I support this. This bill came out of Commerce. I'm always interested in getting youth involved, and I think it's expensive for the Wildlife and Parks because they're a fee-funded agency, but it also it goes a long ways towards getting our youth, and we've seen our hunting numbers shrink over the years, and a lot of that's because of lack of access and just a lot of parents that don't hunt, and just a lot of exposure to lack of hunting. So if this works for that, I'm all for it. Now, what I might mention is I will have an amendment when one of you guys, I'll get one of you to do it, but the amendment is for the last 2 years, we've been selling, the only statute that we were able to use when this did not pass, and we found out that the sunset had expired 4 years before we found out about it. But anyway, we've been selling for the last 2 years, I think, roughly, we've been selling hunting license, and the only avenue that the Wildlife and Parks had to sell was they could sell half-price licenses. So we do have a certain amount of people for the last 2 years, seniors that are 65 years old, that have in fact purchased these half-price licenses. Now, my amendment says that we will go back and reimburse those folks for the half-price license, and they will pay the $45. So, and then it'll all be transparent. This bill does not have a sunset on it like the other one, so it'll just go off into the future. And so I do have that amendment, and I'd like to get that on this bill too, so that those folks can get reimbursed. I'll stand for questions, committee.
Body, any questions? Representative Corbett.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative, I think that's a good amendment, and it'll get the seniors back in the game as fast as we can and give them a rebate if they need.
Thank you for that. Would you be interested in introducing that amendment for me?
Yeah.
When you work the bill?
Yeah, well, I'll do it.
Is that okay, Chair?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good.
Representative Mosley.
Further question?
Thank you, Mr.
Sorry.
Chairman.
I'm not the chairman.
No, I'm talking to this person.
No,
You're,
I
okay.
know, but I said.
All right, no
I
worries.
said committee questions because it's a habit.
Oh, no worries, no worries. My question for you, everybody loves a good discount, right? So at what point would you have a break-even point if we increase the amount of hunters that are now able to participate? And at what point would the increase of people who potentially would want to go out there and hunt, would you actually need to hire additional staff to like pay attention if you get like a certain amount of people who are like, I'm really excited to get away from technology and get some fresh air and shoot a deer?
Are you talking about the cost of the license?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, yep.
Good. So what I'll tell you about that is that hunting licenses and fishing licenses are the cheapest game in town. You buy, I mean, not even this, it's, I think, what is it, $45? I've got a senior license in case anybody ever wanted to know that or suspected that I didn't. But for my $4.50 a year, I spend that. What's it cost to go to the movies now? What's it cost to do any recreation? Fishing, hunting is the cheapest thing, even at $45 annually. It's the cheapest thing out there as far as recreation goes. So
license is cheap, but everything else is very, very
finish?
true. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so cost is not the issue. It's access to land. It's people that, you know, are lakes. It's all those things above. It's not, like I said, I don't know of anybody that can't afford a hunting license or fishing license. It's them finding a place to hunt or to fish. And so, did that answer your question? Maybe I was
Not really, but I can look it up. Thank you.
okay. Take another shot at it. I got all the time in the world.
All right, not seeing any more questions. Thank you, Chair Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Next up, we have, let's see here, we have Director George again. Director George, are you speaking on this bill? Oh, thank you. Was there anyone else that was listed to speak on this bill? Not seeing any. We'll close the hearing on this one. And committee not having anything else before us, we will see you guys tomorrow morning. And we do have a theme here. We do have, if you guys notice what bills have been read in for us, we do have a few hunting bills. So we're going to have a few more discussions probably next week on some hunting stuff. So stay tuned for more excitement. We're adjourned.